Hello, I'm Oliver, Howl's distant cousin. If you know me, come on, I'm gonna get you Howl today. But before we meet him, I need to warn you about something. If you're expecting an ordinary wizard, you're in the wrong castle. Because Howl is many things. A magician, a traveler, a troublemaker, a gentleman, a coward, a hero. And somehow all of those things are true at the same time. Now stay close, because finding Howl isn't easy. He rarely stays in one place. And his castle? Well, it doesn't exactly believe in staying still either. Look over there. Do you see that giant walking castle crossing the hills? The one that looks like someone built a house from spare parts and then taught it how to walk? That's where we're going. Let's hurry before it changes direction. You know, the first time I saw Howl's castle, I thought it was a monster. A huge machine with legs, smoke rising into the sky, metal groaning, windows rattling. It didn't look magical. It looked impossible. And maybe that's what makes it magical. Because sometimes magic doesn't arrive looking beautiful. Sometimes it arrives looking strange. Now tell me something. If you saw a moving castle walking across the horizon, would you run toward it or run away from it? I think most people would run away. But not Sophie. And that's where our story really begins. Sophie was ordinary, or at least, she believed she was. She worked quietly, lived quietly, dreamed quietly, until one day everything changed. Isn't it strange how life works? Sometimes a single day changes everything. A single conversation, a single decision, a single meeting. And for Sophie, that meeting was Howl. Now, before we enter his castle, what do you think a powerful wizard should look like? Long beard? Ancient robes? A mysterious staff? Well, Howl ignored all of those rules. Instead, he looks like someone who stepped out of a dream. Golden hair, bright eyes, a smile that suggests he knows something you don't, and enough charm to convince almost anyone to trust him, even when they probably shouldn't. Honestly, no. Forget that word. Let me put it differently. Howl has the kind of presence that makes every room feel different the moment he enters it. You notice him immediately, not because he's loud, but because he feels impossible to ignore. And that's rare. Now we're getting closer. The castle door is right in front of us. Ready? Let's go inside. Careful, watch your step. I told you this wasn't an ordinary place. Look around. Books everywhere, strange objects stacked in corners, magical tools, flying sparks, and complete chaos. You know what? This place feels less like a wizard's castle, and more like the room of an artist who forgot where they put everything. Actually, that's one of the reasons people love Howl. He's powerful, very powerful, but he doesn't feel perfect. He makes mistakes, he gets scared, he avoids responsibility. Sometimes he acts ridiculous, and that makes him feel real. Because real people are messy. Now, I think I hear someone. Wait, there he is, Howl. Don't stare too long. Apparently he already knows when people are talking about him. At least that's what he claims. Now here's something interesting. Many people see Howl and think he's fearless. A powerful wizard, a master of magic, someone capable of incredible things. And that's true. But it's not the whole truth. Because underneath all that magic, Howl is afraid. Afraid of war. Afraid of losing people, afraid of becoming something he doesn't want to become. And that's what makes him fascinating. He's not trying to become stronger, he's trying to remain himself. Think about that for a moment. Many stories are about gaining power. Howl's story is partly about protecting his humanity, and that's a very different journey. Now let me show you someone important. Meet Calcifer, the fire demon, the heart of the castle, literally. Without Calcifer, this entire place stops moving. Now tell me, if you met a talking fire, what would be the first question you'd ask? Because I have at least 50. Calcifer might be one of the funniest creatures I've ever met. Complaining, negotiating, making dramatic comments every few minutes. He's like a tiny flame powered entirely by attitude. And somehow, he and Howl understand each other perfectly, which probably explains a lot about both of them. Now look out the window. Do you see those distant mountains? The clouds, the villages? One of the beautiful things about Howl's world is that it feels alive. Every road feels like it leads somewhere. Every town feels like it has stories waiting to be discovered, and every door feels like an invitation to adventure. That's something I love about fantasy. Not the magic, not the monsters, the possibility. The feeling that something wonderful might be waiting around the next corner. And Howl's moving castle captures that feeling perfectly. Now think about your favorite characters. What makes them memorable? Their powers? Maybe. Their design? Sometimes, but usually it's their flaws. The things that make them human. And HOW has plenty of those. That's why people continue to love him years after watching the film. He's magical, but relatable, mysterious, but understandable, powerful, but vulnerable. Now, as we continue exploring, notice how much HOW changes throughout the story. Not all at once, not through some giant speech, little by little. That's how real growth works. Small decisions, small acts of courage, small moments that slowly become something bigger. At first, HOW avoids responsibility. He runs from conflict. He hides from difficult choices. But eventually, he begins standing his ground. Not because he suddenly stops being afraid, because he decides something matters more than his fear. And that's courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. That's a lesson hidden inside this magical story, and it's one worth remembering. Now the sun is starting to set. The castle is quieter, the wind is softer, and I think our visit is almost over. Before we leave, take one last look around. The books, the magic, the moving walls, the firelight, the impossible castle. And somewhere among all of it, HOWL, a wizard who isn't perfect, a hero who isn't fearless, a dreamer trying to protect the things he loves. Maybe that's why people never forget him. Because beneath all the magic, there's something deeply human about his story. Something warm, something hopeful, something that reminds us that even imperfect people can do extraordinary things. And perhaps that's the greatest magic of all. Well, our journey ends here. The castle is disappearing into the distance again, which means it's time for me to go too. Today we met HOWL. Tell me in the comments who you want to meet next time. Let's meet again then. Until next time, goodbye.